Welcome to this session on SharePoint 2013 Web Parts. In this session, we're going to talk about web parts in SharePoint 2013, their uses and their functionality. What are web parts? Well, web parts are really functional pieces of content that are added to a web part zone or a content area on a page. You can think of a web part such as media player, lists, or libraries. For each and every list or library, there is a corresponding web part to display the list or library content on another page. Custom web parts can be created to display unique content as well. For example, a weather web part. What is a web part? Well, from a developer perspective, a web part is a user control that can be reused across all SharePoint sites. From an end user perspective, it is a reusable component that can be added to a SharePoint page that performs a specific task. Available web parts in SharePoint 2013 are blog. This includes blog articles, blog notifications, and blog tools. Business data. This includes Excel web access, Visio web access, and a status list. Community. This includes about this community, join, my membership, tools, and what's happening. Content roll-up web parts include categories, project summary, relevant documents, and timeline. Form web parts include an HTML form web part and an InfoPath form web part. Media and content web parts include a content editor, getting started with your site, image viewer, media web part, page viewer, and picture library slideshow. And finally, social collaboration web parts include announcement tiles, contact details, noteboard, organization browser, site feed, site users, a tag cloud, and user tasks. Blog web parts. Blog web parts include blog archives. So these are used on a blog site, and it's typically shown on the left-hand side of the page. It lets you browse to older blog posts by month. Blog notifications. By default, this is shown on the right-hand side of a blog site with links to get the RSS feed or to create SharePoint alerts for the blog. Blog tools. This gives the blog owner some quick links to manage their blog. Business data web parts. These include Excel web access, which allows you to display a spreadsheet in a web part and much, much more. Visio web access, which allows you to view Visio diagrams in the browser and even interact with them. And status list. Status lists or KPIs have not been depreciated in SharePoint 2013, but you can create one on the Add an App page. You can create a report library and use the web part page with the status list contact type. Community web parts include about this community. So this states when the community was established. The date is set on the community settings page. The join web part. This is for users who are not already members to the community, but it gives them a way to join the community. My membership. This web part can be added to the community site or any site that has community features enabled. It shows the currently logged in user all the information about their own participation within that community. Tools. These are really a web part that is for community administrators. And then there's the What's Happening web part. This web part shows information about the current community, the number of members, number of discussions, and replies. Content roll-up web parts include Content Query. This web part lets you roll up content from within a site collection. This particular one is rolling up tasks by grouping them in the name of the site that the tasks are on. Project Summary. This web part displays a great timeline around a task list. There are little arrows at the top right that let you toggle between the timeline and the list of late tasks. When you create a site from a project site template, this web part is automatically included on the home page by default. Relevant Documents web part shows documents on the current site that are relevant for the current user. Settings allow you to check boxes for items that were modified, created by, or checked out to the current user. This is from all libraries that are on the current site. The timeline web part, this one is similar to the project summary web part, except it's more simplified. There is no add task or edit list button, and there is no pretty little pane on the left letting you know about overdue or soon due tasks and such. The web part settings allow you to pick a web, list, and view name. The thing that's better than the project summary one is that this one lets you pick a different site, which the other one does not. Form web parts. There are basically two web parts here. There's the HTML form web part. This one lets you use free-form HTML code in order to create your form on your page. This one requires knowledge of how to write HTML code. By default, it gives you a single box on the form. But the most common one is the InfoPath form web part. When you create an InfoPath form or a form library or customize a SharePoint list using InfoPath, you can use that form and place it directly on any page in SharePoint using the InfoPath form web part. It actually embeds the form within the page. Media and content web parts. There's the content editor web part. This is a free-form web part that lets you type text and format it or insert code or just edit the HTML. After you insert this web part on the page, you put your cursor over the web part and you'll see the Format Text tab in the ribbon. There's a button there. Edit source if you would like to delve into the code itself. Otherwise, you just start typing text. Getting started with your site. This web part helps you get started with a new site by providing some shortcuts. It allows you to share your site. This is the same as clicking on the share button in the top right-hand corner of the site. It provides a working on a deadline button, which lets you quickly add a task list and a calendar to the site. It adds a list, libraries, and other apps, which takes you to the site contents page and allows you to add those web parts. There's a What's Your Style icon, which takes you to the Change the Look page, which is the same as clicking Site Settings and choosing Change the Look. There's a Your Site, Your Brand. This is the same as clicking on Site Settings and choosing Title, Description, and Logo. It's just a quicker way of getting there. And then there's Keeping Email in Context. This takes you to a page that lets you add a site mailbox. There's an Image Viewer web part, which allows you to insert an image on your page. Also, since your home page it could be a wiki page, you can insert pictures directly without having to use this web part. There's a Media web part, which lets you show a video on your site. When you insert it on a page, instead of going to the Edit Web Part to open up the Web Part tool pane like you would normally do for other web parts, with this one you click on the select the web part and then you click on the Media tab in the ribbon. There's a Page Viewer web part. This one is kind of clunky though. It lets you view another page from within your SharePoint site in a window. And the other one is a Picture Library slideshow. A picture library on your site is required for this web part to work. You click Add an App, choose Picture Library, and then you put your pictures in there. The default for the pictures is 15 seconds, and once you pick a library, pick a view in it. Example, you could create a filtered view that only shows pictures from a certain date range or from a certain event. The web part displays them in a rotating slideshow in the exact size of the picture. This helps if you make sure that your pictures are the same size and dimensions. Social collaboration web parts include contact details. This web part allows you to pick one person from a people picker and display the contact info for that person. The noteboard web part shows the noteboard for a page, but I think the site feed web part is really what you want to use instead. Organization browser web part. This web part shows the organization. You click on a person's name to navigate through the org chart. This is all based off the manager property in the user profiles in Active Directory. The site feed web part, you can actually have a conversation on your team site. Any conversations or comments will show up in your newsfeed as well. You can click on the ellipsis of any of the comments and choose follow up. This will add a task to your own personal task list on your My Site users. This shows the names of the users in a specific SharePoint group or all the groups on a site. And Tag Cloud shows a tag cloud pertaining to tags that the current user has tagged by default. Optionally, you can display the number of tags next to each item. You can also change it to show all tags from all users or tags under the current URL by all users. Adding a web part is easy. You click the Web Part command button from the ribbon and click on Add. Mostly web parts are populated from lists. So for example, the Feature Rotator web part pulls in information from the Feature Rotator list in SharePoint. Web parts on the corporate landing page include the corporate POI's web part, which is down here on the left-hand side, the Feature Rotator web part, which is prominent right at the top of the middle section of the page. These are articles that are usually updated by corporate communications. There's the LCBO Corporate Alerts web part, which is on the top right-hand corner of the page. The LCBO News web part, or the Corporate News web part, which is just located below the Alerts web part. Two web parts that aren't displayed here, but are actually on the page, are the Corporate Front Feature web part and the Summary Links web part. The Corporate Front Feature web part is located under the Feature Rotator down here, and the Summary Links web part is located under the Corporate POI's web part on the page. LCBO web parts and lists. Mostly web parts are populated from lists. So for example, the Alerts web part pulls its information from the Alerts list. The Front Feature web part pulls its information from the Featured Items list. The News web part pulls its information from the News list. The Points of Interest web part pulls its information from the Points of Interest list. And the Feature Rotator web part pulls its information from the Feature Rotator list. Web parts that are on the divisional departmental pages include the left-hand navigation down the left-hand side of the page, localized branding. So this is information about the department or the division, usually a masthead. It could be a picture of people in the division or a logo of some sort. There's the news list on the right-hand side and the division alerts are just above that on the right-hand side. There's the divisional departmental description and the points of interest list located underneath the localized branding. That's it for this little session on web parts in SharePoint 2013. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to anybody in the web services team and we'll be only too glad to help you. Thank you.